Alright guys, so today we're going to be painting the lures that I made in the previous video. There were the wooden ones, you got the glizzy, and then you've got the one that was made out of a branch, and then one that was made out of actual regular fishing lure making materials. So we're going to go ahead and paint them. I'm going to do the same pattern for each one and just kind of walk you through the process. Sadly, I wasn't able to get good fishing footage, so we're going to do that in another video, but I'll explain that a little bit later. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is remove the split rings and hooks from the two that have those. Obviously, I can't remove the hooks from the glizzy. Once I do that, I'm going to sand it down really quick and just to scuff it up enough to where the paint's going to stick to it. With the glizzy, you got to be extra careful to make sure I get the whole thing. Otherwise, the paints that I'm going to be using won't stick to it because I am going to be using more of a hand paint instead of a airbrush paint. So once I've got them all sanded and prepped for painting, I'm going to start with the glizzy. So this is a top coat that is also used as a base coat, helps keep the paint sticking to it. So I'm going to coat the entire thing, let it dry, and then once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and start with the actual painting. So I'm just using this cheap paintbrush. It's like one of those ones that comes in like a pack of 10 for $1, the really cheap ones. So once I got that done, I'm going to go hit it with a hairdryer, and then it'll be ready to add the paint. So I drew out some quick designs and then decided which ones I liked the best and the worst. I ended up canceling out the bottom and top ones because they didn't look quite right. So I was kind of trying to decide between the top and the bottom one in the middle. And so I basically just told Siri to flip a coin and Siri chose top one. So we're going to be doing a frog pattern kind of. So I'm starting off with this yellow coating. I had to put, I believe it was 3 coats of yellow on there. And I just had to hit it with the hair dryer to speed things up. That way I wasn't waiting on paint to dry constantly. Ignore the dogs in those photos. I had to wear my wife's slippers to go outside and grab the paints and stuff, and I just never took them off. But I'm going to start by adding green to the top to give it a little two-tone, and then I'm going to add the details of the spots. I did this on both sides, trying to be as thorough as possible without like overcrowding it. I think I did all right. I added a second coat to the top, and then dried it, of course, and then I was done with those. Now I added the eyes with a paint. I could have done some little stickers or something, but I think I'm just going to paint the eyes on this one. This little holder thing is called a helping hands, and I used it to hold the lure while I was painting it, so I went ahead and painted inside the mouth and added a little dot on the side, just kind of as extra decoration, dried it off, and then added another layer of that top coat. It's just so that I could add this glitter. So that top coat is not what I'm going to use for the finished product. I just needed to add a little bit of glitter. This is just cheap, basic glitter that I got from the store. And then I added some gold for the bottom. That way it's got like a two-tone with glitter too. For the top coat, I'm using some of that Gorilla Glue that I used to coat the lures in the last video. And once this dries, it'll all be done. So it took me about 55 minutes, but this is the final product. Of course, the glue took longer than that to dry, but this is what we ended up with. I think it turned out pretty good. Now let's move on to the other ones. All right, so for the expensive one and the one that works the best, I really do want to make this one as good as possible because I'm going to be keeping it, like for sure, to use quite often. But anyways, I'm going to be using some Wicked Colors paints. These are a Createx brand, and we're going to be doing the yellow just like the other one. But then I'm going to do a lime green on the top. And then for the details, like a slight line on the back, and then the details on the side, I'm going to be doing an apple green. So these are the 3 colors. I'm going to be using a airbrush. This thing is dusty. I have not cleaned this side of my shop in a long time. I'm just going to give you a quick glimpse of the chaos. But yeah, so I'm going to try to paint while also holding my camera. So that's the sound of the compressor working. So we'll see how that works. If it doesn't work, then I have to figure something else out. The GoPro just keeps glitching on me, and to be honest with you, I'm tired of messing with it. So I'm gonna try and do it with my phone. All right, so what you wanna do is you wanna coat with the lightest layer first. So here's the yellow. It's kind of already pearlized. So I'm gonna just kind of usually the hand that's holding the phone would be holding those stands so that I can move it around. This is the green that it came out to. Instead of doing it from up top, I just shifted them where my top's like here. So, you know, big brain. Now I'm just gonna spray them. All right, so I've got them done. You can tell it's slightly greener on top, slightly yellower on bottom. You don't really see where it goes, kind of fades together, which is what you want. So now I'm gonna put the darker green. All right, so I've got some stencils out that I kind of made myself. I'm gonna use them in a minute, but I'm gonna do a thin line on the top of both, just enough to cover just the top curve. And it's gonna be that darker green, and then we'll do the details on the side. So I think from there, I probably can put the details. I still don't feel like it's dark enough. I'm gonna mix a little bit of black. Hopefully this is the last time I mix anything in it. All right, this is the last iteration, hopefully. It's a darker green. It should be dark enough to really make a defined line and then make defined details. If not, I think I've recessed this enough to a point to where the side should be light enough where this shows up very distinctly. So here goes nothing. So a slight problem, for me to do this, I have to have one hand on the sprayer and one hand on the camera and then one hand on the stencil. So instead, I'm just gonna go ahead and spray it and then come back whenever I'm done with the stenciling. I've got just enough to coat another fishing lure, so I'm gonna take this blank right here and just use that. I don't really wanna put this in any of my containers, and I just don't want it to go to waste. So I have a whole bucket of blanks, so I'll just use this one real quick, coat it up real quick, and then let it out dry. So coated the orange there. I put a tiny bit in here. It didn't really show up too well, but I'm not worried about that too much. I did also use the rest of it that was left to add a little bit of a belly to this one. I'm gonna make it like a bluegill probably, but that'll be a project for another day. I don't want to waste the paint, so I'll just use it on this. It's a good way to make sure you're using everything as much as possible. So now I do have a tiny bit of orange left in there, not really enough to do much, but what I'm going to do is mix the black directly into that. Instead of cleaning all of this out, the black should overpower it pretty easy. I'm going to spray the eyes on instead of using like glue on eyes or anything like that, and then pretty much ready for top coat. All right, so when I mixed up the black, it actually made this pretty bronze color. So I finished off that bluegill looking one, and it honestly came out pretty cool. So I'll probably stick some eyes on that, put a clear coat on it about the same time I finish these up. But yeah, so this fishing lure was made completely with the leftovers from those fishing lures, which I think is pretty cool. All right, so I actually switched out the orange for this black because the orange was dripping down a little weird. It was too thin. So that's pretty much the finished product except for the clear coat. I'm gonna let this dry and then come back and hit it with a clear coat. I'm not gonna be using that glue or an epoxy. Instead, I'm going to be using like a spray gloss, just because these paints are a little bit more delicate, and the gloss that I use, I just prefer using it. You're gonna see with the other one, like with the other one, when it's finished, it's really glossy, really shiny. The paints on these do most of that shining anyways. You don't need that thick clear coat. And even though these are kind of the more expensive ones or whatever, I really don't want to use my good epoxy just on coating these, especially since I'm not selling them or anything. I'm just going to use a spray coat of clear gloss, and that should definitely do the trick. But I'm going to put an eye on that sucker while these are drying, and then I'll coat them all up later. The video doesn't really do this thing justice because it really does look a lot more striking in person. This lighting isn't the absolute best, but for something made out of just scrap pieces, this is actually pretty nice. I can go ahead and put some hooks on it. I'm not going to test that right now with these other ones. I'm probably going to put another layer of clear coat just to get it a little bit better covered. I don't want the eyes popping out or anything. But yeah, it actually turned out pretty good for something that was made just out of the leftover paints from these ones. All right, so this is what they look like painted. I did, as you can see, it's a similar paint job with the yellow on the bottom, green on top, same similar type of pattern. With this one, you can see it's got a pearly look to it, but it's not like overly shiny. Whereas with this one, it's like super shiny. You can see the glitter in it. Definitely looks unique for that one. And then for the one I'm going to be using quite often, this one's pretty good here. And I don't know, I like how they turned out. This one, you can see the stencil kind of shifted a little bit, but I don't mind. The fish aren't going to care that much about it. So let's go take it out on the water. All right, so I took it out on the water 2 separate days, and neither day I caught anything. Now, in my defense, my pond only has like 2 bass in it, so I'm really going to need to go somewhere where there's more fish. But also, the times I was fishing were not great for top water. Here in the evening, it's not too bad, but it just had a big rain, so the temperatures have dropped real bad. So I'm going to make a separate video with the fishing. That way I can go ahead and just post this one and get working on some other projects in the meantime. And then once I actually get a chance to go fishing somewhere where there's a lot of bass, then I'll go ahead and post a fishing video where I see which lure catches more fish, and where we'll finally see if the glizzy can do anything other than look weird. So I'll catch you guys next time. As always, Jesus loves you, I love you, and have a great day.